Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I'm your host, Ken. I'm sitting across from me this week is the one and only Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we got a lot to discuss. A lot of news has been breaking, so hashtag ODPHEE if you're going to join in on social media, because, hey, we want to hear from you. Biggest story of the week has to be, it is a done deal.
Well, asterisk, almost.
Basically, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Disney has acquired the Marvel characters from Fox Studios and the whole deal. Pat, you want to break it down?
Yeah, it's not just the Marvel characters. It's 20th Century Fox movie studios, some of the TV stuff and whatnot. Of course, this is the big deal we've been talking about for a couple of months, but this past week, the deal finally went down. The vote was finally put to the Disney shareholders, and from what I was reading, this was big formality at this point, and it went lightning fast because they'd already been voting via proxy, aka, hey, here's what I want to vote. When it comes time, submit this for me. So it went down unanimous. Now, it is not a done deal yet. It's, if I'm to use a football term, if you're busting off a run, they're inside the 10 or maybe 5 yard line. They're close, but they're not there. They still have to get approval from overseas, and then it's got to come back to the U.S. for one more finality. So from what Disney and Fox Studios are saying, this is looking like a first half of 2019 timeframe to be finalized and done.
As we've talked about on the show, this is a huge deal on many different reasons.
Yep, because all of a sudden, Marge Simpson's a Disney princess.
In theory, because I believe on The Simpsons they actually said that Fox would be owned by Disney one day.
Yeah, that's that Matt Groening, coming back from the future stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to see, like, his predictions have been coming true.
Yep.
It's very wild to watch and see. But getting back to the story, though, Disney acquiring the Fox characters from the MCU is a huge deal. I mean, that's the one I'm more focused on. I mean, overall, this is a huge deal for media giants.
Yeah.
And the ramifications that you're going to see on your social media to your normal media is going to be just tenfold. This is going to have a ripple effect going forward. But where I've been focusing my attention on is for the MCU and what happens moving forward.
Yep.
The obvious one is the Fantastic Four and the X-Men universe now are part of the MCU.
Well, the ability to use those characters' names, places.
Yes. So there's going to be a very dramatic swing, I think, when they get onto Phase 5 or 4 from the MCU.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm mixing up because I know Avengers 4 is supposed to be the kickoff of Phase 4.
Yep.
Sorry. But getting to that fact, there are going to be a major swing of characters now getting kind of integrated into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually say mutant.
Yep. They can show the Baxter building and not be like, oh, hey, there's nothing there. It's just a building.
Which, I mean, is going to be probably the biggest, dare I say, task to now turn around the Fantastic Four and integrate them into the MCU.
It's almost in the same boat that Spider-Man was in, where you had 2 attempts at a franchise. First one was all right. It was the first movie, of the original, 2003 or whatever it was movie was, the original was fairly well received.
The Sam Raimi ones.
Yes. But then you look at it, what came after was, so mixed. The same thing can be said with these Fantastic Four movies. Very first one, not as well received as maybe the first Spider-Man is, but some people like it. And then after that, it's, in my opinion, just a pile of hot garbage that they just can't seem to get right. And so you look at what they did with Spider-Man, I mean, the track record is there.
It is true. I mean, looking back at the Fantastic Four run, when they first came out with the original movie, it did have some success.
Yeah.
It was good for what it was.
I mean, for the time it was
For
good.
the time it was in, it was fine.
I'll say because you got to figure that's pre-Avengers movie, that's pre-anything Captain America, so there was no, benchmark there.
No, it wasn't. It was just kind of, every team was kind of finding where they were, where their niche was, so to speak. Yeah. Because the X universe was just starting out, the Fantastic Four was there.
Yep.
And, I mean, Spider-Man, I don't think the Sam Raimi one was...
No, Sam Raimi one was, I believe, 2001 or 2002.
Okay, so it's somewhere in that timeline, though, everybody's kind of finding their way. So there is no MCU. Just every studio and every acting team and directing team has their own kind of vision for what they want to do.
Yeah.
So that being said, Fantastic Four was I didn't hate it. Wasn't blown away by it. It was just kind of one of those like, okay, I see where they're going with this.
For me, it was one of those movies that like I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on TV for a while because you don't really see it on TV anymore. But for the time it was shown on TV, that like, especially on a weekend, if there was nothing going on, I wasn't doing anything, there wasn't anything on TV. If the like original Fantastic Four movie was on, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad to watch. It's, like I said, not my favorite movie to see, but definitely...
Not one you're jumping at the gears to go watch.
Exactly. So the sequel to, I know they were trying to implement the Silver Surfer and kind of spread out and maybe intertwine Galactus in there, obviously. That was just not well received, in my opinion. It was kind of... I don't want to say overhyped, but anytime you're dealing with a classic villain or antagonist, if you will... You really want to make sure you nail it the first time, because dealing with classic characters, there is a very big following for them, and to see them not be represented in that form of media, it's kind of a letdown, and it just can really set you back.
And plus, it goes back to the old adage, you only get one chance at a first impression.
Mm-hmm. This is very true. So obviously after that, they've revamped the Fantastic Four, and the last movie version of the Fantastic Four was...
bad.
Yeah,
and I'm being polite.
Yeah, that is polite to put it that way.
I'll say, because for those who may not know the story or never saw it, it really says something about a comic book movie. When that was coming out that year, and Fox was at San Diego Comic Con, they didn't bring Fantastic Four. They brought Let's Be Cops. And that anytime, and one of the most heavily guarded secrets of that movie was what the Thing was going to look like, because it had been a while since they did a Fantastic Four movie. Technology had improved. I wonder what he's going to look like. Photos would leak, and they would be getting takedown notices from Fox within like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was just trouble from the get-go.
Yeah, it was very secretive, almost to a certain level of absurdity.
Yeah, and there's a lot of backstories to it, and a lot of just... It's just messy, to say the least.
If you're bored and you want a good read, you can find some stuff.
You can. So obviously, being the Fantastic Four is such a vital part of the MCU. In the comics alone, that every major event they are, I would say, involved in for the most part.
I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you can probably count on one hand the number of major events they haven't been involved in.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show you their impact on the teams or around them in the whole MCU. This is why this is so vital to nail it and get it right this time. Going into Disney, you can kind of say The Incredibles are the closest thing to the Fantastic Four.
I can see a definite bit of inspiration there.
Yeah. So you can definitely see that, okay, Disney knows what they can handle a superpowered family team. Because at its essence, that's what the Fantastic Four is.
Yeah.
So bringing them into the MCU, they can definitely work their magic. And I foresee this being their biggest challenge, but if they can pull this off, and I think they will.
Oh, absolutely.
This is going to be their biggest home run of any characters they're bringing over. Going into the X-verse, that one has had mixed success.
Yeah.
Albeit, though, I mean, the first X-Men movie was good. X-Men 2 or X2 United, that was great.
Yeah.
And then X3, definitely not.
I liked it when it first came out, but then again, I would like to plea ignorance via youth.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it when it came out. I'm with you. I liked X-Men 1. I liked X-Men 2 because the cliffhanger in that one, or like the tease at the end of that one, was like the greatest thing I'd seen at that point. X-Men 3, I liked at the time because, again, I'm pleading ignorance via youth. Now I'm not so much. First Class was okay. It was good.
It was good.
And then you look at the stuff that's come after. It's kind of been hit, miss.
Days of Future Past was a home run on every front, every single level. X-Men Apocalypse, not so much.
No,
it was good. Yeah. Not great.
Could have been better.
It could have been better. And then you go into the Wolverine movies, and we've already discussed this, I believe, at one point. Origins, not so much.
No.
The Wolverine, good.
Yeah.
Logan, amazing.
Yeah.
And then seeing where it spawns off from there. The X universe has had its fair share of success and misses. Mm-hmm. So bringing them into the MCU is going to be a challenge, but I don't think it's going to be as big of one as the Fantastic Four.
No, because the thing with Fantastic Four is the Fantastic Four has been more negative movies than it has positive, whereas the X-Men movies, like you said, it's been a mixed bag. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. There is far more pressure to get a good Fantastic Four movie out there because there really hasn't been a home run Fantastic Four movie.
No,
There's been some well-received X-Men movies,
mm-hmm.
but nothing, but you look at Fantastic Four, not the case.
No, definitely not. And you want to see, especially with the Fantastic Four, that's probably like I said, their primary target.
Yeah.
The X-Men is definitely the second biggest target. Albeit, though, I think that they do have some wiggle room with the success they've had previously.
Yeah.
But they've also are coming in, and it's going to be a clean slate, so you don't really know what version of the team they're going to go with.
Right.
There is a lot of history that is involved with the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
So depending on what version they would like to go with for the MCU, that's going to be the true telling point.
Right, and I know a lot of people online would like to see James McAvoy, Sophie Turner, in the current run of X-Men characters show up in the MCU. That's great and all, but the one small issue I think people are overlooking is the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it stands, unless they say otherwise, is taking place in present time. The X-Men universe as it stands with Dark Phoenix is taking place in the 90s.
Yeah, well, let me backtrack you in one sec. When they started First Class, they restarted their timeline.
Right.
So thus, those characters are set in an earlier time frame. The Dark Phoenix saga, I believe, is set in the 90s.
Right. No,
okay.
Yeah.
But the previous ones have been set in the 80s and so
right.
forth. So to bring them into the current MCU, they would have to either explain it via time travel, which I don't know if really Disney wants to go that route.
No, they have kind of stayed away from that.
No. Or they're just going to explain a new version of the teams in present day. Albeit, though, when you have your classic characters involved, as you've had, that's going to be tough to do.
Right.
Not to say it's impossible, but that's going to be really kind of tough to do. Especially, like we said, they've dated back into the 60s and 70s for the previous runs, and then the current one is supposed to be set in the 90s.
Yep.
To try saying that everybody hasn't aged, unless they try saying that's a weird side effect of the mutant gene.
Right.
I just don't see them doing it.
I think they, like I said, I think they wipe the slate clean. They start from square one, because you think back to all the X-Men movies, we never really did get an explanation or kind of an origin of mutants. It's just kind of like, oh, hey, they're here.
No, just kind of say that there was a gene that is just the next part of evolution, and seeing where they go with that. That's been kind of the underlying tone, because I mean, they already had one in the original X-Men movie. They did sort of explain that it was just part of human evolution.
Right.
There's just a mutant gene. So I think that everybody's just really stayed away from it. I think, though, with the MCU version, they might explain it a little bit, just to get people caught up to speed, depending on what version they go with.
Right, because you're going to have a lot of people that partake in watching everything Marvel, and they may not read the comics, so they're going to go, wait, are these Inhumans? Are these, like on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? What are these? Well,
I think that they're going to make a very, very big point to explain the difference between Inhumans and X-Men.
If they reference Inhumans at all.
If they do. I mean, I think there will be some. I think Black Bolt will probably be the only Inhuman you hear for a while.
Probably.
Maybe Lockjaw thrown in there.
Maybe.
But getting back to it, though, I think the X-Men are going to make their point to really stand out. I don't know what kind of version you're going to see, though, because, like I said, there's so much team history.
Right.
Are you going to see the classic five, Cyclops, Angel, Beast, Iceman, Jean Grey, or are you going to see Gambit and Rogue get mixed in, Storm in the mix, and, just the lineage goes on, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Kitty Pryde. There's so many different rosters they can go with that they really have to have a good mix. Now, I just don't know how they're going to pull that off, per se, but they're going to do it, though.
Yeah.
The only one I think, though, they should keep around, if they can talk him into coming back, is Hugh Jackman.
That'd be great.
Even if he's not the Wolverine, he could still play Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
Which they do have currently in the timeline.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So there is a spot for him if he wants to, because I know that's been a long rumored dream casting to put him on the Avengers.
I'll say that if memory serves, that's the thing he said. The only thing that would make him come back and play Wolverine again is if he was in an Avengers movie.
Yeah, which I don't see why not. I don't see why you don't put him in there.
Disney would be absolutely stupid. Let me correct myself. Marvel would be absolutely stupid to not put Wolverine in an Avengers movie once they get the characters.
No, and in fact, if you're going to do any kind of time jumping, which I think they have the setup for, pending what happens with the Infinity Gauntlet. Because if they do have the time gem in there, let's say, just hypothetically, ODPH, random thought here.
Sure.
It gets shattered.
Okay.
The time power gets displaced all throughout the timeline. So there is, dare I say, like a merging of timelines, so to speak. So you could technically bring in characters and just kind of merge them onto the MCU planet, whatever you want to define it as.
Sure.
And that's how you can explain that and just cut that out.
That could happen. I believe that's how they've done it in comics several times.
They've done something like that a few various times. So, I mean, there's just a lot of loopholes they can go with.
Sure.
So going in with that, I mean, that's their two primary focal points they're going to do with the MCU deal.
Right. And now, of course, looking at the here and now, because I know there's probably more than one of you who at this point are saying, no, wait a minute, guys. Fox has got 2 X-Men movies and more up planned. What are they doing with those?
Break it down.
Good question. I know we reported on this, God, it feels about a year or so ago, a while ago, back in May, I want to say. Dark Phoenix and New Mutants and what was going on with those. From what I've read, they will both get theatrical releases.
Good.
Simply because they're so far into production at this point. I know Dark Phoenix, if it's not starting reshoots, they're about to start reshoots up in Canada, because they're in the middle of building sets for those reshoots. And the same with New Mutants. New Mutants is going through some reshoots and whatnot. They're so far into this, the meal is so far cooked, if you will, that they would stand to lose a lot of money if they just, crumpled the paper and tossed it in the garbage. So those will get theatrical releases. Now, I know they were planning some other stuff: Silver Surfer, Doom, X-23, Gambit. I know I'm probably forgetting a few.
X-Force.
Anything else besides New Mutants and Dark Phoenix? Done. Shelved. Kaputs.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to do a full reboot, that makes sense. I could fully get that, especially like Gambit, that has never gotten off the ground since
right. It's been announced. It's been off on.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to redo the Fantastic Four, you definitely got to redo Doctor Doom. There's no way that you can have Doom in there, and for how many other heroes he's tied in with. Because he's not just a Fantastic Four villain. He is an entire Marvel Universe villain.
Yep.
You really got to nail that. So, I mean, that makes sense to recast, and just whatever they were planning on doing in the old plans, they just get rid of.
Right. So, well, here's my pitch, and I think you might have pitched this to me at one point. Who's to say they can't just introduce and be like, hey, remember Sokovia and how, up know what creek without a paddle they are? Hey, here's a new leader for them.
Yeah.
Some dude named Doom?
Yes, and he just renames the country as Latveria.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I know people are probably wondering is what happens with the actors and actresses. Now, I know we reference this from what I've been reading, and this is all rumors and hearsay. None of this is official. From what I've read, if it's anyone not named Ryan Reynolds, they're gone.
Well, that makes sense, because if you're going to redo your universes, yeah, you want to start fresh. Albeit, though, you can't really do that with Deadpool.
Right.
Because Deadpool is one of those unique characters that he breaks the fourth wall. He's just a unique character in his own right. And to try recasting him with the success of the past 2 movies, oh, that'd be crazy. That'd be
harder to do than recasting Wolverine.
Oh, absolutely. At this stage, absolutely. Now, I mean, I don't know if they're still planning on doing a Deadpool 3.
I know a lot of people were asking about that, and there's no clear answer.
No, but I think that if they decided to bring Deadpool into the MCU universe, they would have to do it under like a new film line. I don't think they would put Deadpool with Disney. I just don't see that happening.
No.
They would have to be like a subsidiary film company, and that would go through it.
Well, I think they're already, and this is just me speculating and guessing. I haven't read anything. I'm guessing they're going to do that already, because to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, for a while, or at least that I ever knew of, Disney never really put out a R-rated movie under their banner.
Right.
Under the Disney name.
As far as I can remember, I can't either. I mean, I think they might have had a sub movie production company that I think that they would need to do that. Kind of like how Marvel does with their Max line.
Yes.
They would have to do something like that, but with their movie line.
Right.
That makes sense, and especially if you want to put Deadpool under there and some of your edgier anti-heroes. Okay, to do that, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I think to try grouping everybody together, because Deadpool is going to be a lot different than everything you've seen from the MCU.
Uh-huh.
Going to be very different if they decide to continue going that route. Now, what's to say they're going to? I don't know. I mean, there's just so many different factors playing into effect. I mean, we haven't even talked about the TV aspect.
Right.
Which we still have The Gifted, and we still have Legion.
All signs are saying those will not go anywhere, because Marvel was already working in conjunction with Fox on those TV shows, excuse me.
And that makes sense. And especially for those shows, they're not part of the MCU.
No, they're not even really part of the X universe. I mean, I know they reference some stuff, but it's not like, oh, hey, remember what happened in X-Men, Apocalypse? Yeah, we're going to reference that here. No, they're there.
No, they're their own standalones, which works for them.
Yeah.
I think completely works in their favor. So to see them get tampered with, I don't think they would. And plus, I don't think many of those characters would be involved really in the MCU at this time.
No.
I just don't see that happening. So to see those projects stay safe, I think is okay. And just overall to close out the segment, I mean, it's such a big deal to see, just let alone, we've just talked about the characters. We haven't talked about everything else getting tied into the deal coming over.
And I know you and I have talked in the past, well, before we started the show, not just myself, but others would ask, what are the odds that Marvel gets Fantastic Four back, gets X-Men back? 5-10 years ago, you were saying there's no way.
Oh, yeah, there would be no way.
There was no way that, there's not enough money in the free world for this to happen.
No, because at the time, X-Men was still producing at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it still was one of the biggest comics in the world. I mean, it has gone down in its popularity over recent years, at least in my opinion it has.
Yeah.
But they're making strides to bring them back up there. So I could definitely see where the X-Men, I just wouldn't see them come over. Fantastic Four, I always thought they would come back because just seeing how successful the MCU was, I figured everybody else would want to try jumping in.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't know that much about Hollywood politics, and I can't really try explaining that. But I just figured, okay, you know what? All the characters are back, and it proves that an MCU can work.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the box office records.
Yeah.
So to bring in your Fantastic Four and your X-Men, you can finally tell all the stories you want to tell and not have to change certain aspects around.
Right.
I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it's going to be really fun to watch when it happens. Let us know what you think, though. Hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on Disney finally getting the deal done with Fox? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And Pad, this story is all yours, my friend. Take it away.
Oh, baby. So the news came down this past week, specifically on the 27th. It was a good day in my world. StarWars.com officially announced the cast for Episode 9. Still no title, but hey, they haven't even started filming yet. That starts on August 1st. The article reads, quote, Star Wars Episode 9 will begin filming at London's Pinewood Studios on August 1st, 2018. J.J. Abrams returns to direct the final installment of the Skywalker saga. Abrams co-wrote the screenplay with Chris Terrio. Returning cast members include Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o, Domhnall Gleeson, Kelly Marie Tran, Joonas Suotamo, and Carrie and Billy Lord. Joining the cast of Episode 9 are Naomi Ackie, Richard E. Grant, and Kerry Russell, who will be joined by veteran Star Wars actors Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, and Billy D. Williams, who will reprise his role as Lando Calrissian.
Oh, that's awesome news to hear.
Which it's great to see that the rumors, and now this is what I said before, It was rumored Kerry Russell was going to be in it. It was rumored Billy D. Williams was going to be in it. Until you read it on StarWars.com, grain of salt.
Pad, you know your Star Wars.
This is true.
What is your feelings on the casting?
I like the casting. I'm very excited to see, all the returning characters. I'm even more excited to see that Mark Hamill is listed. I'm also happy to see Billy Lord, who, for those who don't know, that is Carrie Fisher's daughter. See her announced in the casting announcements, which I know she got a big bump in screen time with The Last Jedi. I'm hoping it, given how small their forces are, I hope she gets an even bigger bump. And of course, the big one, the one that I think a lot of people, myself included, they announced in this article was they didn't wait and, quote unquote, mystery box what they're going to do with Carrie Fisher's death, because I know there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of articles. There's been a lot of questions. What are they going to do? Mm-hmm. They're not going to recast Leia.
Good. That's good.
They're not going to do like they did in Rogue One and CGI somebody in. What they're going to do is, quote, the role of Leia Organa will once again be played by Carrie Fisher using previously unreleased footage shot for Star Wars The Force Awakens. J.J. Abrams said, we desperately loved Carrie Fisher. Finding a truly satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker saga without her eluded us. We were never going to recast or use a CG character. With the support and blessing from her daughter Billy, we have found a way to honor Carrie's legacy and role as Leia in Episode 9 by using unseen footage we shot together in Episode 7. this is great.
That's great news, because if they were going to even attempt recasting, I would probably lost my stuff.
I would have too, and I couldn't even think of I was like, you can't just write her out and like, oh, this is something off screen. No, you can't do that for a character like her and what she's meant to movies and women and acting and everything. So to see them do this, I love this.
No, I love it too. That is perfect, because especially just looking at just taking it to Star Wars. You can't have a the Skywalker storyline. You can't have it without Leia and Luke. Albeit though, I'm going to throw a curve and maybe don't. I'm just going to watch your reaction here on this. What is the chances that you don't see a Harrison Ford cameo in this? I know that obviously what happened in episode 7.
Right.
Not likely, but it's the last one. I'm just saying they're going to wrap up everything Skywalker with this.
Well, I wonder how. But first, my question in rebuttal would be, how big is the aircraft carrier they're backing up to give him money? Because that's what it would take. Because he's wanted that character killed off for going on almost 40 years now. The second being, I think it'd be interesting to see how they do, simply because he's not a Force user, so he can't show up as a ghost. So I think the only way, if that were to happen, would be some sort of recording or family footage type of deal.
Okay.
That'd be interesting to see. The one I have seen floated out that I'm not sticking my hat on it. I would love to see it if it doesn't happen. I'm okay with it. Would be they've announced Mark Hamill is going to be in the movie, so thereby Force Ghost Luke is going to show up at some point. The one I would like to see, and a lot of fans would like to see, is some sort of Force Ghost interaction between him and Anakin.
Okay.
Which never happened on screen. Never happened before. You're ending the Skywalker saga, because they've said, you read this article on StarWars.com, they mention it like 2 or 3 times. So this sounds like it's the end of the Skywalker storyline.
Right.
This is your last shot. I would love, Hayden Christensen has sort of come back to the community and to the Star Wars world, having been behind the scenes when they were filming The Last Jedi. He went to Celebration a couple of years ago. This is your shot to do it.
That would make a lot of sense. And you know what? I think if you're going to tie up the Skywalker franchise,
you're going to tie up all 9 movies.
Why not?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, even if you do like flashback sequences,
right? However
you want to spin it, that makes sense to bring him back.
Yeah.
Makes sense to bring Harrison Ford back if he wants to come back.
Right.
Because like I said, obviously after episode 7, I was pretty sure he was done too.
Yeah.
But you never know.
No.
Just to throw it against her, because this is going to be it. I mean, after this, there's not going to be any more Skywalkers involved in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Why not just throw it against the wall and see if, maybe, just throw a shot and see if it, sticks.
I'll say, because the thing that it would make a lot of sense to have Anakin Skywalker show up, because you have Kylo Ren for 2 movies now just idolizing everything about Vader and everything he did as Vader. And it was like the worst mistake Anakin could have made looking back on it. It would make a lot of sense for like Anakin to finally reach through and finally get to him and kind of do like a slap upside the head. Like, what in the world are you doing?
Yeah.
This is not what I wanted.
It would make a lot of sense. I mean, just because we really don't know what storyline they're going to go with now.
Right.
Other than, obviously you're going to have your final battle between Kylo and Rey.
Yep.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I have not seen any scripts, because trust me, out of everybody that's involved with the ODPH, Pad knows more than all of us combined. So,
well, with this movie, not much, because they don't start filming for
right. But just even kind of guess at where the direction is going to go.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, okay, it's the last one. Obviously, you're going to have the big climactic scene between Kylo and Rey. But why not bring in as many other characters as you can from the previous?
And it makes all the sense in the world to have Lando Calrissian show up, because if you remember at The Last Jedi, they were on Crate and they were trying to get a message out to any of the other resistance forces, anyone sympathetic to their cause, and nobody answered. And Leia said at one point, "Use my signal, people will answer to it." Who in that universe will answer anything from her?
Lando.
Remember his reaction in Empire Strikes Back? "Hello, what have we here?"
Yeah.
He's going to answer that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how his character is. I mean, just to see like how he's changed since the original trilogy.
I still want his swag level to be like ignorant levels.
Oh, of course. Well,
he's only had time. He's aged like fine wine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Billy D. Williams coming back to this is just, I'm super excited about that cast.
Yes.
And like I said, I'd like to see as many former actors and actresses involved with the Star Wars, the original 6, 7. bring them back.
Yeah.
Why not? Because this is going to be a tribute to the fans as well as the storytelling. Because after this, it's going to be a whole new direction.
It's going to be uncharted territory, which is something that this franchise has never experienced.
Right. And there's so many different ways they can go that just to tie it back to what brought everybody to the dance, so to speak. Because no matter where you are, whether this is your current trilogy, whether 4, 5, 6 was, or even 1, 2, and 3. There's something for everybody to be tied in with this, because to make it to 9 films of a story is something in its own realm.
I'll say, and it's a coherent. Now, I know there have been other movies, Fast and Furious comes to mind, and Saw comes to mind, but a film series that gets to 9 films with like an overarching story, not something that like, okay, you get bits and pieces that move from movie to movie. No, this is like, what starts in 1 ends in 3, what starts in 4 ends in 6, 7 through 9.
Yeah. This is just something that is just part of film history. And just to see how the ripple effect is on fans. I mean, there's been so many people that have been grown up with Star Wars. I mean, we've talked about this in previous episodes.
Yeah.
The impact this has on everybody in film. If you're a film fan, if you're a casual fan, a pop culture fan, there's so much involved with this.
Right.
That it's like, why not just, invite everybody to the party, so to speak. Even if it's a cameo and like a final shot.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying that everybody needs like, a whole acting line or scenes.
No.
I mean, I just like to see, okay, this is the final send-off. Go out in style.
Yeah.
Because I know there's been so much controversy about The Last Jedi. I love The Last Jedi.
Yeah, so do I.
I had no issue with that. So I'd like to see them kind of finish off the story they're doing, but tie it back enough. Like I said, have your flashback sequences.
Yeah.
See, because if you pitch it like this to some of the actors that maybe didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
This is it. We're not going to do another one, and you're not going to be involved.
Well, I can think of one who'd do it in a heartbeat. Sam Jackson.
That's true.
He has been pitching for a spin-off movie for going on like 3-4 years now.
And it would make sense.
He'd do it.
Yeah, I mean, why not? If you're going to tie in, you're essentially tying in 8 other films to your one. And as long as you're telling the core essence of your 9th film, it doesn't hurt to have an Easter egg here, so to speak, of just a tie-in to something. Like for me personally, what I'd mark out if I saw him come on screen?
Jar Jar Binks.
No. Correct that. No, if they had the Boba Fett helmet just even sitting there, I'd probably lose my stuff. But that's me. But overall, though, I mean, the casting, it sounds great.
Yeah.
And obviously, JJ is going to be, taking his time with this one.
Say the mystery box will be in full effect. You will not be knowing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go into it, I really don't want to know that much because this is going to come out next December.
Yep.
So there's going to be plenty of time to speculate, plenty of hype going on. There really isn't going to be anything coming out, I believe, next year around December. I think the closest thing we have is November in Wonder Woman 84.
Something like that, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not looking at anything right now to justify that. But I'm just saying, with that being said, though, this is going to be the movie of 2019.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, for me, it's Avengers 4 and this.
Right.
But this one is probably going to trump it. No matter what.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. I'm definitely excited to see what they do with it, how they swan song, so to speak, the Skywalker saga. I'm almost as excited, if not more excited, to see where they go forward from here because this is entirely uncharted territory for them. More uncharted than starting the prequels because those you at least knew, okay, we got to end up here. The sequel trilogy, it's kind of uncharted territory because you didn't know what was going to happen, but this is entirely different. You are not relying on anything that has come before it.
No, you have to close the story, and it has to end. There is not going to be any cliffhangers involved with this.
No.
So like I said, for it to have pretty much its own month, and like I said, every other movie, that said the closest comic movie that is coming out is November with Wonder Woman 84.
I think any movie studio that's smart and doesn't put anything near this with a 10.5-foot pole.
No. And, I don't blame them because, let them have their own time. Because, as soon as this movie hits, it's going to just dominate the box office.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, it's earned it. It's earned that right. I mean, the franchise is definitely, stands on its own there.
When you say relevant for 40 years, it really speaks to everything about the franchise.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just take a look at its history and just look at the impact it's had on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPHE. What's your thoughts on the casting for Episode 9? Are you excited for it? Are you not? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shake radio attack, taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back to Time Talk, a little Cloak and Dagger here on the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Oh boy.
Now, this show, like we've talked about for many weeks now, has been a surprise hit for us here.
Yeah.
Because going into it, I was kind of like, okay, let's see where it is. The show has just gotten so good.
Yep.
And I dare I say, do I compare it with the Netflix shows?
Nah.
I'm saying they're getting to that level.
It feels like apples and oranges. It feels like the Netflix thing, because Netflix can hold no punches, you know. It can basically do whatever it wants. Cloak and Dagger, not so much.
No, but they're kind of dancing on the line, which I like. And it definitely has a different feel than what we've seen from Marvel on TV.
Yeah.
So to see where they're going with this, obviously, last week's episode was they finally got Detective Connors for the murder of Tyrone's brother. And Tandy confronted Scarborough for Roxanne and found out some information she didn't want to know.
Yep.
So it was almost like, okay, our heroes won. And then,
finally.
And then as it ends last week, Detective O'Reilly's boyfriend is murdered.
Whoops.
And just you can kind of sense that this week's episode is going to have a lot of different stuff going on. And boy, did it ever.
I'll say, because much like any comic book, a superhero or superheroine's happiness can only last for so long.
Absolutely, because your villains have to be just as great as your heroes.
Yep.
And Cloak and Dagger is kind of having their mix of their antagonists, but everything's coming along very nicely going into the season finale this week.
Mm-hmm.
But this past episode, I mean, we see everything from Tandy is kind of, dare I say, I don't want to say relapsing into her bad habits, but she's really not taking what she found out from Scarborough very well.
I'll say she's fallen off the horse, as it will.
So to speak. She's going around and she's stealing hopes. Going back to like when she was originally hustling and drugging people and stealing money, she's doing this, but now she's stealing their hopes.
I'll say she's going back to what she knows and what she's quote unquote comfortable with.
Yeah, which I mean, to say Olivia Holt has been rocking on this series is an understatement. She has just been absolutely crushing this role, and to see that how Dagger's power is being used. Now, for me, like I said, I've read some Cloak and Dagger, so I have somewhat of an idea of the characters. To me, it almost seems now like Dagger needs to feed off people's hopes, like Cloak has to feed off people's energy to feed the predator that's inside the Dark Force dimension that he carries.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like a role reversal.
Well, it almost seems like it would make sense, because as they've always been pitched, it's yin yang, dark light. That would make sense.
Yeah, and I think it's such an original take on it too, because we see how Cloak struggles and he has to hunger and he has to feed off the light. To see that the Dagger now, I guess, needs to keep absorbing hope just to keep her light, so to speak.
Right.
That's an interesting take. That I think is just a really cool take how that came off. And as we said, Detective O'Reilly teamed up with Cloak last episode to get the confession from Detective Connors. When it's submitted to the police, they don't believe it.
Well, of course not.
They kind of brush it off, which, I mean, that sends Ty through the roof, as it should, because because basically every plan he's had to find justice for his brother has gone out the window.
So this guy's in the middle of a maze, and every turn he takes is a dead end.
Mm-hmm. And especially now, Detective Connors knows who he is.
Whoops.
That's the big problem going in there. And Detective O'Reilly, she's obviously not handling her boyfriend's murder well.
No.
So when they show a scene that they're at the bar and she is getting very heavily drunk, and Detective Connors comes waltzing in.
Oh boy.
And obviously seeing him and the reaction to that whole ordeal, because she knows that there was some foul play involved. She attacks him, and they actually get into a fight in front of everybody in the bar. And Connors, is throwing punches too, which, I mean, just to see how his character, I mean, obviously I don't like him to begin with.
No.
He is just, making me just want to go punch him myself.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see how his character, and he's just being as cold as possible. And to O'Reilly, like, just basically saying, I know you were involved in trying to frame me, and I'm going to get you too.
That's always a good sign in a TV show that a TV show is being well written. When you have that character that like they're just doing everything they can to make you hate them, that you want to jump through the screen and just absolutely punch them. I've had a few times happen when I'm watching TV shows and I'm like, I just want to reach through and punch you. That's a really good written show.
Yeah, I mean, the writing on Cloak and Dagger has just been spot on too. I mean, mixed in with their soundtrack, because their soundtrack is the best character that's not featured every week, because it should be. Because their soundtrack is so good. Like like certain shows can really place music with scenes.
Yeah.
Cloak and Dagger has done it just phenomenally every week. That it's almost like another character on the show. But going back to it, I mean, obviously we see O'Reilly has got a very tough road ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
And Tandy, I mean, she's kind of just not dealing with everything going on. But she does do something that was a little, I mean, dare I say, I completely forgot about. She bails Liam out of jail.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about
her
that. Her
boyfriend from what, episode 2, 1 and 2, just
something
how it
like
opened.
that. Yeah.
And they kind of have an odd conversation after it happens. And I mean, during this time, though, she, like I said, she's been stealing people's hopes. She does steal Mina's hope.
Oh boy.
Which it now appears that Mina has now gotten colder. Like she doesn't have any, hope or joy in her. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward. Now, granted, it was kind of brief, this scene, but that was one thing I noticed was like, I think there was like a personality switch here.
Right.
So I want to kind of see where that plays out next week. Going into it, though, like I said, Tandy bailed Liam out of jail. They kind of have a weird conversation. Ty is fighting people at school because he's not handling that. Obviously, his plan has gone up in smoke. And then he's like fighting with somebody who appears to be like a teacher or priest for where he is. And they kind of have a weird interaction where like Ty is being punished by holding books.
Yep.
To kind of, wait out his anger. And I mean, during this time, they're using their powers, and Ty sees the priest involved in a fatal car wreck. Like he kills somebody driving. And I mean, obviously when this happens, he kind of shifts his power to where Tandy is, and at this point, she is kind of having a weird hope sequence where she is stealing Liam's hope.
As she does.
Yeah. And when she shows up, like, it kind of just is this weird interaction. And then when they fade back, they go to school, and I mean, obviously, Ty is dealing with what he did. He runs into his girlfriend, Evita, at this point, who she now knows that Tandy, who shows up, is the divine pair that has been rumored by her aunt for so long. Mm-hmm. And when Tandy tries stealing her hope, she's blocked.
Oh, boy.
So there's something going on there as well, which hasn't been really clarified either. But going into the episode, though, Liam finds the money that Tandy's been saving up, and he takes off, so he's left. So Tandy is kind of, dare I say, I mean, it almost seems like every character that went from such an emotional high has now come crashing down this episode.
In like the worst way possible.
Yeah, absolutely, the worst way possible. I mean, going into how the show ends, I mean, O'Reilly, it kind of takes off, I mean, after she's recovered from the fight the next day, and she hears like a weird police call, she takes off, so I have a feeling something's getting set up against her.
Probably.
Ty, on the other hand, is, he's been fighting with his parents about what's been going on, and the police show up. Detective Connors leads them to arrest him for the murder of O'Reilly's boyfriend.
You should have seen this coming.
Yeah, which I just thought was a great setup that, okay, Connors is getting his final shot going into the last episode, but the biggest shock of all, I thought, is when Tandy goes to see her mom, and she's immediately shot at by the assassin who killed the mom's boyfriend, the lawyer that was working on the case against Roxanne.
Yeah, that was a little surprising.
Yes, and basically it's kind of a standoff now where the assassin goes, Tandy, show yourself in 3, 2, and I'm going to shoot her mom. And then Tandy just ends with her making the dagger, and something's going to hit the fan next week.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, super excited for the season finale. Pat, do you have any thoughts going into it?
I just want to see some resolutions. I know they've been building up and doing a lot of stories and kind of the upward swing of the roller coaster, if you will. I kind of want to hit the top of that roller coaster and see the resolution to some of this.
I absolutely want to see where this goes because, like I said, way back when they casted Detective O'Reilly, I said she was going to be mayhem. I think we're going to see how this starts because, especially as you've seen for promo work on Season 2, they were saying Season 2 is going to be mayhem, and you see the green claws on the poster board. So something is going to happen where I think you're going to see that transformation happen. I definitely want to see the resolution with Detective Connors and Cloak. I don't know what to expect with that one.
No.
And then with Tandy, especially, I know she's throwing daggers, and you're going to see them team up to defeat whatever threat is coming. I just want to see it end on a high note going into season 2. I was so happy when they got greenlit for season 2 at San Diego Comic-Con. So to see where they're ending season 1 is going to be something. But especially this week too, a special reminder before we end the segment. They're going to be airing Runaways right after on Freeform. So you have Cloak and Dagger 8 p.m. on Freeform Eastern Standard Time, and then they're going to be showing Runaways, which has typically been on Hulu.
Yeah.
It's the first episode at 9 o'clock. So it's a heavy stack night of Marvel TV on Freeform. So check it out if you can. Hashtag ODPHEE. Let us know what you think of Cloak and Dagger. We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And Pad, why don't you lead us off with those one-shots?
Well, first thing I'm going to talk about is two things. Again, comics.
Yes.
Because the Amazing Spider-Man #2, the renumber has been as good as the first issue. Of course, it picks up where the first one left off, and Peter's going back to school to get his degree back. And he walks into the classroom, and who is teaching this class? Kurt Connors as the Lizard. Which is never a good thing when Spider-Man, having fought the Lizard for so many years, walks in the room of a class full of students and there's the Lizard.
No, that usually is signs for trouble.
Yes. Now, the interesting thing with this is you don't really get any fallout from the tease that was in issue #1, but you do see Taskmaster and Black Ant show up and try to steal a rather historic piece of Spider-Man history. It's rather interesting. I'll leave it for you to read when you go to pick up the comic yourself. I'm very interested to see where this goes because, like I said, they've kind of taken Spider-Man back to square one, back to the bachelor living with roommates in an apartment in New York City, kind of having a scrape by. But that wasn't even the biggest comic book news of the week. That one went down in Marvel's Infinity War Prime #1, which I'm sure a lot of you may have heard about. So we're going to talk a few spoilers here in 3, 2, 1. They killed Thanos.
Yeah, that was such a left field move. Especially he's the most popular he's been now because of Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
So to kill him off, I mean, unless they're going to do something where they bring him back, which I think they're going to.
It would have to be through time travel because if you haven't seen the panel or read the comic, a character shows up so basically in the issue, Adam Warlock and Doctor Strange are trying to find the Infinity Stones. They've got the Soul Stone and the Time Stone. They travel into the Soul Stone to try and get another one. Adam Warlock goes, oh, you're not collecting Infinity Stones, are you, Steven? Because if you are, he is too. And it cuts to a panel. It cuts to a scene with Thanos kind of lording over the Chitauri again. And he goes, oh, they're getting the stones back together, the Infinity Stones back together. And I'm going to, he's kind of monologuing as villains often do. And he goes, oh, if they're getting them back, I'm going to reclaim them and reclaim my rightful place in the universe. And he's lording and he stands up. And that's when a giant sword gets shoved through his back.
Yeah.
Character pulls it out and he recognizes who it is. And he goes, oh, something like, I hope it was going to be you. And then the character goes and lops his head off. And it lays there, and he kind of has this long moment of, oh, this death is fine. And so then you get the Chitauri who are like, well, by our laws, you're now the strongest person here, so you're our master. So what's your bidding, master? And the character goes, I have just one order for you. Die.
See, I'm kind of curious. When I read this, too, I immediately thought it's either Gamora or Nebula.
I thought the exact same thing because, correct me if I'm wrong, they're like the only ones who can kill him? Or at least that's how it's kind of built. It's
kind of built that, obviously they're his daughters, so to speak.
Right.
That they have been trained in the ways so they would know how to do it. So I would have guessed that would make the most sense per se.
Sure.
I will say, though, I'm leaning more so it's towards Nebula. I think that obviously if you've read the Infinity Gauntlet, you know what kind of role she plays in that story.
Yeah.
So to tie that in with the comic universe a little more so and reintroduce her, I think that would make a lot more sense. So wait to see on that, but it was definitely a good read, though.
Right, and I'm glad they went this route because it's showing off right at the bat, right at issue number 1. Yes, this has Infinity War in the title, but this is not going like any of the other Infinity War titles you've read before.
Yeah, and I think that's a good look for Marvel because you don't want to keep rehashing the same old thing, especially when you had such a book like the Infinity Gauntlet, and then you read the Infinity Wars, and then you went to the Infinity Crusade. There's a lot that you connect to, and like I said, it's just the Infinity Gauntlet is such a classic story of Marvel cosmic writing that trying to tie everything into that is just either you got to keep up the quality or you just really should just leave it alone. And this book, I mean, it showed a lot of promise for issue 1, so stay tuned and find out.
Yes.
So for my one-shots, I'm going to follow up about something that we were discussing last week. Obviously, one news story from San Diego Comic-Con was the firing of James Gunn from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. Now, we have not heard any resolution from that other than he still is fired at this time.
Yep.
But the main cast from the movie, Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista,
Zoe Saldana, Bradley Cooper, Sean Gunn, Vin Diesel, Karen Gillan, Michael Rooker, and Pom Klementieff.
Yes, have all posted an open letter asking for him to be reinstated to the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. You can find it on, I would say, their each individual Instagram pages.
I know the one that was getting shared most on Twitter was from Zoe Saldana's Twitter account, which is at Zoe Saldana.
Yes, so that has been the latest update in that situation. However, though, as we stated, at recording time, there has been no new development of Gunn being rehired to the Marvel Universe.
And there's also been no update as to, should Gunn not return, who will take over the role of directing.
No, so it's wait and see with that as well, but that has been the latest development. So moving from that to more MCU news. Now, something that came across my wire was the IMAX film release for 2019. Now, something kind of stuck out to me anyway.
Like a sore thumb.
Yeah, because when we're talking the Avengers, and I know that the Avengers 4 is going to be, obviously, as we said in the Star Wars segment, one of the more highly anticipated movies of 2019, if not the.
Yeah. It's a 1A, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that they were listed to come out in April of 2019 instead of May.
Yep.
Does that mean the movie is getting moved up, or is this a typo?
Either way, I could see it getting moved up because that's what they did with Infinity War, simply because they wanted to avoid spoilers getting posted online because this was arguably the most anticipated movie since Star Wars The Force Awakens. So you knew that the spoilers were going to get online, so they moved up the release date simply to avoid the spoilers. This also just could be because IMAX is an international company. They went with the international date listings because, for those who don't know, while we in the United States, let's just say it's August the 5th. If a movie comes out on August the 5th here in the States, it'll come out maybe a week or so earlier overseas. It's just the way Hollywood works, So it could just be as simple as that, or they could be moving it up. Who knows?
Yeah, because the only thing that really kind of stuck out is the only comic book movie that is currently listed, if I read the list correctly, for April is Shazam by DC.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is going to be, a power play move, so to speak, that we're going to move up, and I don't know if they would have have them both come out on the same weekend. I don't know the exact dates. I would hope not.
That's box office suicide for both of them. Not just DC, but Marvel's all. That's suicide.
Exactly, because the reaction from Shazam has been overall positive. Yeah. So I don't think that you really want to test your movie-going audience, especially the comic book fans, to decide which one they want to go to. I mean, obviously they're going to go to both.
Yeah.
But I don't think the same weekend.
No.
So I'm thinking this might be a typo, but I'm going to definitely keep my eyes on it, and we'll keep you posted here on the ODPH Entertainment Edition with that.
Yes.
My last one shot for the week, Iron Fist 2 has been slated to come out September 7th on Netflix. 10 episodes.
Ooh,
not
okay.
not the typical 13.
Interesting.
So not really sure where they're going in that direction, but I think 10 episodes works. I mean, obviously, I think that's what they're doing around Cloak and Dagger. So if a shorter story means more quality, yeah. I'm completely fine with it. I don't think you need to drag it out.
I'm also fine with that simply because it's less time for filler episodes and stuff that's like, all right, I see the character development that's going on here, but really for the plot, it really didn't do anything.
No, and especially for Iron Fist, I know that season 1, I thought there was some filler episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited from what I've seen from season 2 thus far.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you condense it, you cut out the filler, and you get right down to the fists and the kicks, I'm all for it.
Yes, and one quick breaking news as we are recording goes, hey, breaking news actually came out when we were recording.
Get out.
The Marvel Spider-Man game developed by Insomniac Studios coming out on the PlayStation 4 has gone gold, which for those who don't know, that means it is getting printed and put onto disc, ladies and gentlemen. It is done. Lock in that release date. No delays here.
Oh, I can't wait to try that.
Yes.
I'm not the biggest PlayStation guy, but that game looks just amazing.
Yes. If there's anything I know about Insomniac, and any old school PlayStation fans will know, Insomniac, of course, Ratchet and Clank fame, among many others, they know how to make a good story.
Absolutely. And I know that this is going to tie into a lot of what's going on in the current comic too. So at least parts and elements. So either way, I mean, the game looks awesome. If you can tie it into the regular series, more power to you.
Yes.
Folks, that's all we got for this week. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.